It all started with one of those stupid fights, the kind you can't even remember the details of a few days later. Just noise. Static. What I do remember is what came after. I asked her if we could carve out some time that weekend. No chores. No distractions. Just us. Maybe a walk. Maybe dinner. Maybe just a reminder that we were still something more than two people who shared a mortgage and split utilities. She didn't even glance up from her phone. "You'll get intimacy when I feel like giving it," she said, lacing every word with sarcasm like it was a joke I was too stupid to get. Then she looked up, smirked like she'd scored a point, and went right back to scrolling. I just stood there. For a second, everything inside me froze. I didn't yell. Didn't sigh. Didn't ask her what the hell that was supposed to mean. I just smiled, quiet, calm, like someone who'd finally solved a riddle that had been driving them mad. And that smile, it wasn't out of bitterness or spite. It was clarity. Cold. Sharp. Because in that moment I saw it for what it really was. Not just the fight. Not even just the marriage. The whole thing. The pattern. The slow erosion. The years I'd spent trying to dance to music she stopped playing long ago. And how foolish I must have looked, still pretending we were a team. She didn't follow me. Not physically. But I felt her eyes track me as I walked away. I think deep down, even if she'd never admit it, she sensed it. Something had shifted. She thought she'd won some petty battle. But I wasn't retreating. I was leaving. That night we lay in bed, backs turned like strangers waiting out a storm. I could hear the soft flick of her screen as she scrolled. My side of the bed felt like a ledge. One wrong move and I'd fall. And the air between us? Ice. I didn't reach across it. I just stared at the ceiling, not panicking, not even angry, just thinking. 5 years ago, this woman was warm, affectionate. She'd laugh at my dumb jokes. Pull me in after long days. Back then, our connection wasn't just physical, it was constant. Safe. Real. At least, I thought it was. But it started to unravel, slow and quiet. First the hand-holding faded. Then came the tired excuses. Fewer laughs. More distance. I'd ask about her day, she'd toss back a word or two like she couldn't be bothered. I told myself it was stress. Work. Life. Anything but the truth. She stayed up late binging shows I'd never heard of, back to me on the couch like a wall. When I tried to talk about it softly, respectfully, she rolled her eyes. Called me too sensitive. Or worse, needy. So I stepped back. Focused on work. Paid the bills. Ran the errands. Did the things a husband is supposed to do. And in return? I got silence. Indifference. Cold. I didn't tell anyone. Not my brother. Not my friends. Not even the buddy I used to tell everything to. Shame kept me quiet. And hope kept me trying. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I gave her space, she'd come back. That somewhere under all that distance was still the woman I married. But tonight ended that. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them. Like love was a reward I hadn't earned. Like I should be grateful for the scraps she felt like throwing me. You'll get intimacy when I feel like giving it. There it was. Spoken plain. The truth she'd been acting out for years finally out in the open. And I heard her. For the first time, I really heard her. So I stopped. No more pleading. No more late-night talks that went nowhere. No more reaching across a divide she'd built brick by brick. Just a quiet smile and a walk down the hall that felt like the first step towards something better. Because the silence? It wasn't defeat. It was mine. And she didn't know it yet, but I'd already started packing. One drawer at a time. One memory at a time. Quiet. Focused. Ready. Because I was done begging for love that had already left the room. The first thing I took with me wasn't a suitcase. It was effort. I stopped trying, but not in the dramatic, we need to talk kind of way. No yelling, no slammed doors. Just quiet. Intentional. The kind of withdrawal that doesn't show up all at once. More like a draft slipping through a cracked window, chilling, but subtle. Almost invisible. I stopped reaching for her hand on the couch. Stopped offering to make her coffee in the mornings. No more midday check-ins or those little thoughtful gestures I used to believe could still patch this thing together. Kindness used to feel like hope. Now it felt like wasted breath. And the strangest part? She didn't even blink. Maybe she liked it at first. Thought she'd finally broken me. Thought she'd trained me out of needing connection. That maybe this was what winning looked like, having someone revolve around you until they burn out completely. But what she didn't understand is when someone stops spinning, they don't just sit there. They drift. And I was already far from her orbit. I started waking up before she did, way before. Not because I had anywhere urgent to be. I just couldn't stomach the stillness of those mornings anymore. The way she'd breeze past me in the kitchen like I was just part of the decor. No hello. No eye contact. Like I was wallpaper that started peeling and she just stopped noticing. So I left earlier. Took my coffee in the car. Breathed. Deep, honest breaths. The kind I hadn't taken in what felt like forever. I hit the gym again. Not to get ripped or prove a point. Just to feel something. To sweat for me. To build something that wasn't tied to being her husband or anyone's emotional pack mule. I forgot how good it felt to feel strong again, to move with purpose. To look in the mirror and recognize the guy staring back. And yeah, people noticed. Women noticed. I saw the looks. The eye contact. The small smiles. I wasn't invisible anymore, not out there. But I wasn't dumb. I wasn't looking to cheat. I wasn't her. This wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. I wasn't out to find someone new, I was finally finding myself. Then, about a week after that night, she noticed something was off. I came home from the gym later than usual. Wasn't in a rush to get back. Walked through the door around 8. Takeout containers still on the counter. She was in her robe, curled up with Netflix and a half glass of wine, acting like nothing had changed. "You're late," she said, eyes fixed on the TV. "Didn't realize we had a curfew," I replied, tossing my keys in the bowl. That made her pause. Her eyes snapped up like she'd just heard thunder on a clear day. She watched me clean up the mess she left, no sighs, no griping. Just quiet, focused movement. "You okay?" she asked. Not out of concern. Just curiosity. "Better than I've been in a long time," I said. That hit her. I saw it. She stared at me like I was a stranger who'd walked into her living room wearing my face. But she didn't press. And I didn't explain. The next few days followed the same rhythm. I was polite, calm, even helpful. But I wasn't hers anymore. I didn't initiate anything, not touch, not small talk, not interest. She was no longer the sun in my sky. She wasn't even part of the weather forecast. And it started to get to her. She started performing. Lingerie to bed when she usually wore ratty old t-shirts. Asking questions about my day like she cared. Little tests. But I didn't bite. I was respectful, sure. But she wasn't the center of my life anymore. Not even close. Then came the money shift. I'd always been the one managing the books, bills, investments, taxes. She liked to say she was independent, but she'd never once read a credit card statement unless she was questioning a charge I made. So I made some moves. Quiet ones. Canceled a few subscriptions she didn't even know I covered. Redirected part of my paycheck to a private account. Started outlining a new budget. Not for us. For me. A future without shared anything. A future where I didn't have to ask permission to live. She didn't notice right away. But she would. Oh, she would. Because this was never about intimacy. Not really. It was always about control. And the moment I stopped playing her game, she started losing. Not just me. Everything. That's when she started watching me. Not with affection. Not with curiosity. This wasn't some rediscovery of her husband. No, this was different. Measured. Guarded. Like someone trying to find the hole in a boat that's already half sunk. I'd walk into a room and feel her eyes skimming over me just above the glow of her phone screen. She'd toss out casual questions. "Who were you texting? Why are you dressed like that for the gym?" But her tone was off. The smile didn't reach her eyes. She thought I was cheating. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. I wasn't cheating. I wasn't even looking. I was just breathing again. Living like a man who remembered he had a pulse. And that scared her. Because in her mind I was the constant, the rock, the loyal guy who never strayed, never doubted, never even considered walking away. I was supposed to orbit around her forever. So when I stopped circling her like a planet around the sun, she panicked. And that's when I knew. She had something to hide. The first crack came through someone I barely knew. Rachel. Loud, brash, single. The kind of woman my wife used to roll her eyes at until recently when they suddenly became close. Too close. I bumped into her at the grocery store. Wine aisle. She spotted me, froze for a beat, then tried to play it cool. "Oh, hey," she said, a little too surprised. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Why not?" I asked. She opened her mouth like she had a ready answer, then second-guessed herself. "No reason. Just figured you'd be working or something." I didn't push. Just nodded and moved on. But I saw it. That flicker in her eyes. The kind people get when they realize they said too much. It stuck with me. That night I opened our shared calendar. We'd used it for years, syncing schedules, keeping life organized. Lately, though, it was packed with vague entries. Wellness consult. Creative sync. Strategy call. Harmless words unless you knew her. And I did. She wasn't consulting. She wasn't creating anything. I'd asked once, gently. She shrugged it off. Just some personal projects. Nothing you'd be interested in. At the time, I agreed. But now I was interested. So I did something I'd never done in all our years together. I checked her phone. Not in a frenzy. No guilt. No hesitation. She was asleep and I used her fingerprint. Unlocked it. Scrolled. First, nothing unusual. Some texts to friends. Social stuff. Then I saw the gaps. The awkward silences between conversations. Too clean. Too edited. Then I found the folder. Disguised behind a calculator icon. Like some teenager hiding a secret life. I tapped it. And there it was. Another number. No name. Just digits. But the messages spelled out everything. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. He hasn't touched me in weeks. It's like living with a ghost. No, he doesn't suspect. He's too passive. That word. Passive. I stared at it like it was written in fire. That's how she saw me. The man who built our home. Who paid for everything. Who endured every eye roll and every cold shoulder like a fool hoping it'd all come back around. She thought that made me weak. I kept scrolling. Some messages flirted around the line. Some crossed it. Others went beyond it. Ugly, raw, disrespectful. But one burned hotter than the rest. He just exists. Pays the bills and fades into the background. It's boring. It wasn't just betrayal. It was contempt. She didn't just cheat. She looked down on me while she did it. Like being faithful, like showing up, made me some kind of joke. That night, I sat on the back deck long after the lights were off. Let the cold air bite through my clothes just to prove I could still feel something. And in that quiet, under that dead sky, I made a decision. There'd be no confrontation. No dramatic showdown. I didn't need answers. I had them. This wouldn't be a fight. It would be a removal. Surgical. Precise. I'd cut her out of my life so cleanly, so quietly, she wouldn't even realize she was bleeding until I was already gone. Emotionally, mentally. But there was one thread left to pull. One thing I needed to know before I burned it all down. Who? Because if I was going to dismantle her little fantasy life, I wanted to know exactly whose shoulders she'd decided to build it on. So I ran the number through a reverse lookup service. When the name popped up, the room went quiet around me. Air thickened. Sound dulled. And then the punch landed right in the gut. I knew him. Of course I did. We worked in the same building. He was that guy, goofy, safe, always cracking jokes in IT. The one she used to call harmless. Like a golden retriever. She'd laugh. Harmless, right? He was married. 2 kids. I'd had beers with him. Hell, he fixed her laptop once during tax season and she baked him cookies as a thank you. Cookies. And now he was sending her shower selfies while I set the mortgage to autopay and vacuumed the stairs. That's when everything locked into place. She never had power over me. She just used my silence, used it like a mirror. And as long as I reflected the version of herself she wanted to see, she felt stable. But the second I stopped, when I became something she couldn't control, she started to break. But I wasn't stopping there. There's a kind of silence that comes right before the storm. Not loud, not violent, just heavy, like the world is holding its breath. That's what filled the space between us now. She didn't know I'd read the messages. She didn't know I'd seen everything. But she felt it. Something was shifting under her feet, and she couldn't find solid ground. I saw it in the way she looked at me during dinner. Too long, too often. The way her voice cracked when I didn't respond the way she was used to. I'd become a stranger in my own home, and that scared her. Because that stranger, he didn't need her. She tried to reel me back. One night, she pulled out the black slip I'd given her years ago, our anniversary, maybe 3 years back. She stood in the doorway of our bedroom like some warped memory, trying to channel a version of us that didn't exist anymore. I didn't even lift my eyes from my book. "I'm tired," I said, flipping the page. "Long day." The look she gave me then, that quick, bitter flash of rejection, that was the first real emotion she'd shown in weeks. She hated it, hated feeling powerless. But that was the difference now. She played games. I played chess. And I'd already made my move. I'd met with a lawyer. Quietly, thoroughly. We reviewed everything: screenshots, texts, app data. Cheating alone wasn't a guaranteed win in our state, but combine it with financial deception, secret spending, private accounts. Now we had leverage, and I had plenty of it. I also had timing. I waited until the weekend of her so-called wellness retreat. 2 days of self-care and mindfulness, she claimed. In reality, she was meeting him at a cabin 3 hours out. I knew because I watched them book it from her hidden email. One she forgot was still linked to our shared tablet. She thought I was working all weekend. I let her think that. Watched her pack, kissed her on the cheek, told her to unwind and enjoy herself. And then, I executed the plan. Bank account? Split. Frozen. Joint credit card? Cancelled. Her luxury SUV? Towed by noon. Lease was in my name. She never bothered to check. By the time she pulled into that cabin, her phone would be blowing up. Decline charges. Error messages. Access denied. The life she built on my stability cracking. Confusion would turn to panic. Then desperation. I never went to the cabin. I didn't need some movie scene confrontation in the woods. No yelling. No last-minute speeches. I wanted her to sit there, really sit there, with the man she burned our marriage for and feel the walls start to close in. To realize he wasn't her escape. He wasn't her future. He was just a distraction from the truth. She wasn't running to anything. She was just running away. That night I sent one message. Just one. When you get back, don't come home. Papers will be delivered Monday. No punctuation. No emotion. Just the truth. I didn't block her. I wanted her to respond, to watch her try and claw back something she thought she still owned. She didn't disappoint. Wait, what are you talking about? We need to talk. This is insane. You're blowing this way out of proportion. You're really doing this? You're throwing away everything? And finally, the one that made me exhale, not cry, not laugh, just breathe at. You're being so dramatic. You're not the type of man who walks away like this. That was it. The last thread she clung to. This version of me she built in her head, quiet, dependable, endlessly forgiving. Her emotional punching bag. Her sponge. She didn't know me. Not really. She only knew the version of me that tolerated her. And that man? He was long gone. I didn't reply. Just set the phone down and went to sleep, best night of sleep I'd had in years. She came back Sunday night even though I told her not to. Tried her keys. I'd already changed the locks. I didn't answer the door. I watched from the side window in the yellow wash of the porch light as she stood there, tired, disheveled, and for the first time in years, unsure. She knocked. Then pounded. Then screamed my name. I said nothing. Eventually she slid down against the door. Her voice cracked. She sobbed. And I stayed still. By morning, she was gone. All she left behind was her pride, a broken heel, and a faint smear of mascara on the doorframe. I watched the footage later. She sat there nearly an hour. Crying, texting, whispering to herself. Bargaining with the night sky. Then she stood. Straightened up. Wiped her face. Walked back to her car like none of it happened. Typical. The papers hit her desk Monday morning. Served at her office in full view of the co-workers she used to love impressing. I didn't do it to embarrass her. I just wasn't shielding her anymore. That was a husband's job and I'd resigned. The silence that followed was deafening. No calls. No texts. Just that eerie calm you get after a wildfire when everything's been scorched and the smoke still lingers. But it's quiet. I went back to work. Hit the gym. Ate. Laughed. Lived. Then the drip started. I've made mistakes. Can we talk? You're still my husband. Don't do this out of anger. You're not thinking clearly. She still didn't get it. This wasn't about anger. It wasn't even about the affair anymore. This was about freedom. Freedom from the manipulation. The gaslighting. The cold contempt that wore a wedding ring. The slow death of connection disguised as the everyday fatigue of marriage. She took everything for granted because I never pushed back. And when I finally did, she thought I'd break. She thought I'd come crawling, needing answers, closure, apologies. But I didn't want closure. I closed the door. What I wanted was peace. And now, I had it. Eventually, the text stopped. A mutual friend mentioned she'd moved into a one-bedroom near her sister's place. Driving a rental. Seeing a therapist. And as for him? Her funny, safe, golden retriever affair partner? Gone. Turns out when the money stopped and the consequences showed up, he wasn't quite so loyal. Shame. She didn't lose everything. I didn't go scorched earth. I didn't take the house. I didn't gut her finances or try to ruin her name. That wasn't the goal. All I took was me, my time, my energy, my loyalty, my silence. And it turns out that was worth more than she ever realized. The last time I saw her was about 3 weeks after the papers were signed. I was picking up coffee before work. She walked in behind me, sunglasses, no makeup, hair tied back in a way I'd never seen before. Simpler. More human. More real. She froze when she spotted me. I just gave a polite nod and turned back to the counter. When my name was called and I grabbed my drink, she stepped forward. Hesitant. Unsure. You look good, she said, soft. I smiled. Not cold. Just calm. I feel good, I replied. She looked at me like she was searching, trying to find some piece of the man she used to mold, manipulate, manage. A crack. A trace of softness. Something familiar she could still reach. There wasn't one. I turned to go, but paused at the door. Looked back one last time. You once told me I'd get intimacy when you felt like it. Her lips parted, maybe to defend, maybe to apologize. But I didn't wait to find out. I stepped out into the sun, took a long sip of my coffee, and left her standing there. Watching me walk away. Watching the last bit of control she thought she had fade into the daylight. Because here's the truth, she never had power. She only had permission. And I finally took it back.